If you were ever to visit my childhood neighborhood and were to ask somebody about me, in most probability that person would say, ah, that little quiet boy, we thought he would be a doctor. Well, that was what I was destined to be. My father, my sister, my brother in law, all of them were doctors. So, what would I, a 10-year-old boy, want to be? Hmm? Yeah, of course, a doctor. And so that was what I set out to be. I was all clear about my horizon. The horizon seemed perfectly well etched for me, simple and clear. And then college happened. I went to college, and then suddenly science seemed so unreal. Why am I studying thermodynamics? Why is calculus happening? So I started sliding down in my academics. I failed in my examination miserably. My parents were very reassuring. They told me to go ahead and attempt once more. But then I had dug up a pit and I was quite comfortable in it. While all my friends had made plans, they had joined for medicine and engineering. Here I was loafing around, drinking, talking about girls. The horizon now seemed a little blurred. It was almost disappearing. I was sinking into the swamp, and the bog had reached up to my nose. That's when my mother pulled me out of it and took me to Kochi. Kochi was a city, an entirely new city for me. I actually wanted to hate it, but it was an interesting city. I found it quite nice. I joined Cochin College and joined for zoology. Yeah, zoology, yeah, science again. But then I had done away with maths, so yeah. But here I found the students quite interesting. They were quite involved in politics. I found them quite disturbed about the country, and they were all set about doing something about it. And so this whole idea interested me about changing the world, and so I joined the Communist Party. Personally, it brought in a lot of change in me. I felt more responsible towards my surrounding, and that made me a political being. I gave up zoology and I took up philosophy. I joined the university and took up my degree. I took up philosophy because I felt that I should not study something for a career. And so this subject was something which would never fetch me a job. That was my thinking at that time. Meanwhile, I was also trying to experiment with ways to express myself. I tried painting, but then I realized that I did not really have a talent for it. And then something happened which really opened up a new horizon for me. It was 1988, I clearly remember. And Doordarshan at that time was showing some late night films every Friday. So one of those Fridays, I was watching a film, and then this film really shook my very being. It was The Stalker by Andrei Tarkovsky. This film, now, see, till now, for me, film was purely for entertainment. I thought films were made for entertainment. But here was a film which was trying to disturb me. Here was a film which was engaging me in a philosophical discourse. So, Andrei Tarkovsky, I watched all his 7 films. And 7 Fridays later, I decided that I wanted to be a filmmaker. And I was 19. So I finished my graduation. I set out to watch serious films, seriously. After my graduation, I started applying for FTI. FTI was the only institution at that time, Film and Television Institute of India, was the only institution at the time for filmmaking, and it had only 10 seats. So when I applied for the first time, I failed. Well, I took it very positively, and I applied again next year. I failed again. Suddenly, I got very depressed, despondent, and I gave up and I took up a job. My parents still then were so despondent about me trying to be a filmmaker, suddenly gleefully took up this opportunity, got me married. A year later, I had a daughter. And so I, who had set out to be a filmmaker, was now saddled with the job a wife, and a kid. Well, the horizon slowly blurred again, and I slowly set out to be live a life of trapness. But my wife understood what I really wanted to do and goaded me. She asked me to prepare once again. So I got again enthusiastic and started preparing for the entrance examinations. And on the fourth attempt, I got through. When I entered the hallowed portals of FTI, I felt that was a place where I really belonged. 2 years of watching films, talking about films, living cinema, editing, and the whole camaraderie that I developed, which even lasts even till today. I majored in film editing and I stepped out into the world. I was all ready to take over the world when I realized this world is not what I know. It's a digital one. I had never switched on a computer in my life. Film editing had totally shifted to software driven ones. They're called non-linear editing. The editing I knew was tactile, touch, film. For me, cut and paste was not Control X and Control V. It was actually cutting, it was gluing, pasting, using scotch tape. And so here I was in a world which I did not know, and nobody was ready to touch me. Months went by without a job until a small time studio owner took me in. Well, he took in because he himself was not able to find anybody. And so I joined him. He taught me how to use a non-linear software. I started working 7 days a week. It was tough. It was the toughest time, I should say. I used to work continuously 7 days a week, work 2 days in a row, come back home, take a shower, go back to the studio again. Well, that was the time when I was lowest in my self-esteem. I almost gave up. And I wanted to give up this whole thing called film editing. The horizon seemed very grey and uninteresting. And then, at the time, a ray of hope peeped in. I got the news that I got the National Award for film editing. That gave me a huge fillip. I moved from Chennai back to Mumbai. I became a really busy editor. I started doing a lot of television shows, documentaries, some independent films. I joined production houses, channels. I should mention I was part of Pogo, and I was really popular with kids because I knew it raw. So everything was going good for me. I had my own flat in Mumbai. Both had good jobs. Kids were going to good schools. What was I missing? It's the horizon. I can't see it. Is it because of the tall buildings in Mumbai? Or is it the fog? Is it the pollution? Or is it something that I'm doing? What am I doing? I'm planning my own career. I'm paying my EMIs, having a good job, planning for weekend getaways. This was not what I wanted to do. Then 10 years back, my cousin called me and said, Uni, let's make a film. I looked out of the window and I felt the mist clearing, and I could see a new horizon once again. I moved to Bangalore and I worked on my first feature film, Lessons in Forgetting. And I worked with stalwarts like Adil Hussain, Anita Nair, Ganesh Kumaresh, Malay Bhattacharya. Great in what they were doing. And it was a learning in the process for me. The film went across the globe with festivals and it was much appreciated. And I also got a national award in 2012. What happened next is a little strange. I joined my cousin in his IT company as an HR manager. I was into appraisals, employee engagement, whatnot. People would ask me only, what are you doing? Some of my employees would ask me, what are you doing, sir? I would smile. So, okay, I like this job. It pays my bills. I had a new house. I had a brand new AMI. My wife would chide me. What happened to your dreams? I would shrug it off. Okay, I'll do it. Give me some time. But slowly I realized The horizon had changed and it was not so great or interesting. Finally, I quit 3 years back. But I was all lost in this new city, Bangalore. I did not know anybody. I didn't know what to do. The last film I did was 7 years back. So I decided to start again to teach. I started as a faculty, visiting faculty in colleges, private institutions. When I started doing this, I realized that I knew so little about what I want to teach. To teach, I had to learn. So I went back to my basics. I again started watching films, the classics, the contemporaries, the experimentals. I started reading about them. That was a humbling experience. I realized that I knew so little about them. All I was doing was chasing my own career. I was not pursuing cinema, I was pursuing my own career. For me, the horizon that I knew was not that of cinema, but it was of my own achievements, my own aspirations. Horizons come in different shapes, different hues. When you're young, you should never lose sight of your horizon, not even for a moment. But as you grow older, you should keep checking whether the horizon is there actually, or is it just a mirage, a reflection of yourself. I started to look back for 30 years what I wanted to do. I went back to 30 years and I started reading on philosophy. I started reading philosophy in films. Interestingly, some time back, I sat down to watch all the seven films of Andrei Tarkovsky, all the seven films. And I realized surprisingly, it was talking to me differently. So you see, these are films which talk to a 19-year-old and a 50-year-old differently. And that is the greatness of cinema.